Morning, everyone. This is the Budget Committee. Our chairman is out sick, so he's asked me to chair today's committee meeting. We will start with roll call. Calvin, can you take care of that for us? Or Paul, one of the two, whoever would like to.
Councilmember Moreno is
Present.
Councilmember Green, Councilmember Thomas. So we have three members. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you so much, Calvin. Let me start with the approval of the committee meeting minutes from January 12th, 2023. If I can get a motion, please. Moved by Councilmember Green, seconded by Councilmember Thomas. All in favor? Aye. 3 yeas, no nays, and the minutes of January 12th, 2023 meeting are approved. That brings us to our annual audits, which is, oh, wait, you know what? Let me take the health department first. Sorry about that. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'll get to the audits after we do our presentation here. We're going to take item number 4. This is ordinance calendar number 34018 and 34019 by myself, Morel, Jeruso, and Harris. The ordinances amend a portion of the budget that will provide $100,000 in this fiscal year of $100,000 that would go toward buying gun locks and providing those gun locks to the community. We have seen other cities take on similar types of initiatives to ensure safe gun storage. Of course, we've seen so many unfortunate stories on the news of, someone getting injured with a gun that wasn't safely stored, children getting injured with guns that were not safely stored. Of course, we've seen the number of firearms that have been stolen right here in our city. Well over 1,000 firearms stolen in the city of New Orleans last year. Those firearms that are not locked could then end up in the hands of the wrong people and be utilized toward violent crimes. So whatever we can do as a council to support initiatives to provide safe gun storage, we want to be there. And that's why, when this request came in and in conversations with Health Department Director, Dr. Avegno, I said, well, let's do what we can. And I know that there are efforts happening as well to partner with the business community to add additional funding for these types of initiatives to continue well beyond just what the council is starting off with the health department. So with that, I want to turn it over to Jocelyn and to Jeannie to tell us a little bit more about why this initiative is so important and what the funding will be utilized for.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Again, Jeannie Donovan, Deputy Director in New Orleans Health Department. I'm here joined by Jocelyn Pinkerton, our Program Manager for Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be here and any funding the council will able to provide to this end. I'm going to give a little bit of context for our presentation before turning it over to Jocelyn to dive into the details of the evidence behind gun safety campaigns and gun locks and the details of our campaign. But just to give a little bit of context, I wanted to share 3 data points that I know Dr. Avegno shared at the special meeting the council had last month, but just to really make sure that we're illustrating how dire a situation we are in New Orleans. Homicide is the second leading cause of pregnancy-associated deaths in Louisiana. Homicide is the leading cause of death of children in New Orleans. And in 2022, last year, 45 Black men ages 18 to 24 were victims of homicide, and that's 70 times the national rate. And we know that in each of these categories of homicide, each of these demographics, firearms are the #1 cause of death. I want to just make clear before we dive into gun safety that from a public health perspective, the best way to prevent a homicide or a death by firearm is to not have a firearm. So I just want to make sure that that's on the record before we dive into gun safety. But we know that the reality in our city is that there are a lot of guns on the street, legal and illegal. And in that reality, we are operating and recommending a campaign on gun safety as an important preventative measure. And this diagram is one that Dr. Avegno presented again to the council last month, but I just wanted to share it again to put this presentation in context of the larger strategy that we're recommending be implemented and resourced to address gun violence in our community. So gun safety there at the bottom of that middle pillar under prevention is really important and is one important piece of the larger puzzle that we've recommended. And now I'll turn it over to Jocelyn.
Okay, again, thank you for allowing us to present this morning. So just as an overview, we know research has shown that more than half of all gun owners store at least one gun unsafely. So we know that there's a lot of guns in our city that are being stored without any locks or other storage measures. We also know that there are strategies that have been proven to be effective in increasing safe storage. So a couple pieces of research that I wanted to point to, there's been a bunch of these programs around the country, and this is just a selection of a few that have shown good results. So for example, a community-wide awareness program in urban North Carolina, where there was combined sort of multimedia awareness campaign, tailored information about firearm safety and gun lock distribution, demonstrated reports of safer firearm storage. Same thing with a program based in a pediatric clinic in a Hispanic community in Tucson, Arizona, also at a pediatric hospital. So I wanted to say that I know that the police department has been doing some of this work previously with efforts to improve community awareness of gun safety and gun storage. But research also shows that it might not take just the police to be doing that work, but also community-based interventions that are based in medical clinics and hospitals. And so that's part of where we want to bring in sort of a larger strategy to bring, the work that's already being done by partners like our police department, coupled with a wider sort of community-based and, potentially pediatric-based campaign on storage. So there's kind of three problems that we identified, and I think there's some different strategies to address each of these that I wanted to cover. So first of all, unsecured guns in the home lead to accidental child deaths and contribute to teen gun violence and injury. Second, unsecured guns in cars and homes lead to gun thefts and contribute to community violence. And then finally, gun access is a risk factor for suicides. So starting off with accidental child deaths, Jeannie mentioned some statistics on gun violence in general, but unfortunately, Louisiana has the highest rate of accidental shootings of children and some of the least restrictive storage laws in the country. In New Orleans last year in 2022, there were 3 child injuries and unfortunately 1 child death as a result of a child accidentally shooting a gun. However, studies have shown that households that locked firearms and ammunitions were associated with a much lower risk of unintentional firearm injuries among children and teens. So we want to really address accidental child deaths. And a strategy for this is to target information and gun locks to parents. And so what we're looking at is, a public awareness campaign for parents about safe storage. This awareness for parents can also help increase safe storage that can prevent teen suicide as well. So just, child accidental access to guns, but also teen access to guns in the home. I think there is a role here for providing cable locks for guns stored in the home. And the studies that I mentioned, those were all based on distribution of cable locks, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, and information for parents about safe storage. So this is, this group of people might be parents, people that have guns in their homes. We just want to make sure that they have education and the tools that they need to make sure that those guns are stored securely to prevent injury and death. Another piece of the strategy is to reinforce this initiative with policy. I'll go back. And so we have, I believe Councilmember Thomas is sponsoring a careless storage ordinance that'll be coming up. So we already have a law, a municipal law on the books. This would add a penalty for adults who carelessly store firearms in a place where a minor could gain access to that firearm. So just to demonstrate that we want to sort of back up our messaging and providing resources for parents, also with policy as well. I don't know if okay. So over the last couple of years, the problem of accidental child death has really been significant and discussed in our statewide child death review. And so the Louisiana Department of Health had worked with Be Smart, which is a national campaign that's a component of Every Town for gun safety. The Louisiana Department of Health was able to use some grant funding to take this Be Smart campaign and kind of tailor it to Louisiana. So these are just some examples of campaign materials. I think we have a real opportunity here in the city to kind of take the work that they've already done and really amplify that for New Orleans. These materials, again, were tailored for Louisiana, and LDH had done some work with focus groups with gun owners to inform the development of this campaign. And so again, this is really tailored towards parents to increase safe storage. Okay. The next thing that I want to mention is gun thefts. So gun owners who carry guns outside of their homes and stash them in their cars are more likely to have their guns stolen. Most cases of gun theft, guns were taken from people who left their weapons in unlocked homes and cars. The majority of gun homicides and assaults also involve illegal guns. This isn't really news at this point. I think we all know that this is a big problem, but I do want to say that this has been an issue that has been increasing nationwide. So gun thefts from cars are now the largest source of stolen guns, which is kind of new over the last couple of years nationally. So we're not alone in that. And the major increase in overall gun thefts over the past 10 years has been driven by the rise in gun thefts from cars. So I want to say, just to sort of echo what Jeannie mentioned earlier, we want to target parents who are storing guns in their home and prevent those guns from accidentally, being accessed by children or teens. I think there's another large swath of people at this point who are recently new gun owners who have purchased guns. They might not be as savvy about storage. They think that they might need guns for protection. They want to have easy access to their guns because, again, they think that that's going to keep them safer. And I just want to reiterate that we know that the presence of a firearm amplifies risk for everybody involved. So I work in the field of domestic violence primarily, and we are always telling survivors that if you purchase a gun, even if you think it's for your protection, that actually amplifies risk of death or injury in your house. That'll increase the risk of death by 5 times. So we are really not advocating that people purchase guns for protection. We know that that increases risk. The reality, though, is that people in our city have purchased guns recently that they think that they need for protection. And so we want to take a harm reduction approach in preventing those guns from being stolen, from being accessed by people who are going to use them for increased, potential injury or violence. So some strategies for this group of people, and there might be some overlap with, parents here who have purchased guns that want to have them readily available. We want to increase public awareness about securing guns to prevent theft. So this is aimed at gun owners. And, we know that a lot of guns have been stolen from cars with people that were attending events. I mentioned earlier that, cable locks can be an effective way to teach people about storing their guns securely. But for folks that want to have their guns accessible, when the Louisiana Department of Health was doing some of their research about their Be Smart campaign, they did focus groups with gun owners who said that they were really interested. They would rather have biometric locks. So cable locks, you need like a little key to unlock the lock, and it takes a while. For people that think that they need their guns to be available, biometric locks are, you put your finger on it and it reads your fingerprint and it opens. So one strategy here is purchasing biometric locks to distribute to people who are going to keep their guns in their cars or at their bedside table, for example. These are a little bit more expensive, but I just want to illustrate this is kind of what a biometric gun lock looks like. This coupled with kind of campaign information about the responsibility of owning a firearm, we think can be effective at preventing firearm thefts and also people accessing those firearms who shouldn't. These are going to be a little bit more expensive than your cable locks, but we think that this can be an important part of a campaign. Okay, and lastly, I didn't want to leave this out because suicide prevention is another important component of gun safety and safe gun storage. Nearly 2/3 of all suicides in Louisiana are by firearm. Obviously, I think in the news right now, we're sort of the accidental child deaths and the gun thefts from cars are kind of like more sort of immediate concerns, but again, we know that firearms increase risk of suicide as well. So this is where, we know that there's other partners that are already doing some of the suicide prevention work. The VA, for example, has been very vocal about distributing cable locks to veterans and preventing suicide. So because we see this as sort of an overarching campaign to unite partners that are already doing this safe storage work, we wanted to include that as well. And here's a picture of a cable lock and sort of what that looks like. And again, as I mentioned, the VA has done a lot of work in distributing these out to folks as well. Okay, so just to illustrate some costs here, again, we already have the campaign materials that are vetted and sort of ready to go. The campaign materials, meaning, public media, but also, handing out information to people along with gun locks is, I think, a really important piece of this. We can't just give out locks. We also have to really engage with people about what safe storage means and the impact that that can have. And so out of the $100,000 proposed, we'd want to use half of that for campaign materials. The cable locks, we can probably get for free from National Project Child Safe, from the ATF, other partners. Those are kind of readily available. But again, those biometric locks that I mentioned, if you buy them in bulk, they're about $100 a piece. So it's more of an investment, but we do think that that investment is going to show some returns in safe storage. So that's our proposal for costs. We have already started engaging with some partners around this. So again, I know the police department has already done some of this work. We are in conversation with Children's Hospital. They're really on board. And again, some of the research has shown that giving out gun locks and gun information in pediatric clinics and hospitals has been shown to be effective. That we're looking forward to potentially working with the school board to get messaging out to parents is, one of our main target groups. We've also been in communication with the Tulane Violence Prevention Institute and want to really root any work that we do in evidence-based practices and, could bring them on as an evaluation partner as well. And as I mentioned, the Louisiana Department of Health, we really want to build on the work that they've already done in this area and work with our partners to just increase this campaign and bring people together on this. We're just getting started. So we'd love to engage more partners here, faith partners, sports teams and event organizations, the business community, NOR, libraries, the YMCA, and the VA as well, who I know is already doing a lot of this work. And that is what I have. Happy to answer questions.
First, thank you for a really excellent presentation here. A few weeks ago, the city council unanimously passed a directive for the health department to be the lead on the violence intervention model. You all had already been doing work, don't get me wrong, but now you all are tasked with creating the whole model and figuring out the pieces to it and figuring out the funding for it as well. And we would help you with that as well. And I just really want to say that I'm so appreciative of the health department working so closely with the city council. Let's just take a look at this one presentation. There's really three aspects of it. One is the gun locks piece, which you work very closely with my office on. The other is the campaign piece, which Councilmember Harris has been so about. You've worked so closely with her on. And then the third is the safe storage ordinance, which Councilmember Thomas is leading on. So that's three council members right there for just this one presentation that you all have engaged with to make sure that all areas are covered. And I'm just very appreciative of that. So when it comes to the gun locks piece, really my only question that I have is how quickly do you think that we could get things started and be out in the community distributing the gun locks and the materials?
Want to go on the purchase?
Yeah, so we are working on purchasing biometric locks right now, and like I said, I have a meeting later today with Children's Hospital talking about how to get their campaign started. So we're sort of already starting to work on this, and obviously we know that this is a pressing issue. So as soon as we can get
and I know of many community organizations and faith-based groups, churches who are more than willing to help volunteer, partner with the city, the health department, the council to help distribute these locks, so when that time comes, just let us know and we'll provide you with, necessary volunteers that you may need at certain events, et cetera. But I think this is really great and urgent work that you all have done on this matter. You put this together very quickly and I very much appreciate that. Councilmember Thomas, followed by Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Councilmember. First of all, thank you, and the health department team for what I know is one of the really important issues in our community, especially with the proliferation of guns, and not just illegal guns, but so many people, because of their fear for public safety, that are carrying guns and have guns in their possession and in their homes without really the knowledge of how to use it. The Firearm Industry Trade Association talks about partnering with community groups that have some experience. And I've been fortunate enough to have a relationship with Two Way Coffee, which is, they've been around for a long time. They've been on television, they've been on the radio show, they've done segments on responsible gun ownership and gun safety. They meet every week, and I think their president of the association is Gary Ballier. It's Two Way Coffee. I forgot what all the letters stand for, but if you guys could, I could give you their phone number
Yeah.
right now. It's 504 701
Mhm.
8093. And the president is Gary Ballier. They meet every third Sunday of the month at the corner of Aretha Castle Haley and ML King. And they have I think a gun safety class tonight at Joe Brown in New Orleans East from 6 to 8. And the last one they had was in Algiers. So this group has a very, very diverse membership. Especially they target disparate communities where a lot of gun safety and education doesn't happen. And Mr. Ballier said they would be more than happy to partner with you guys and help get the message out, especially since they've been doing it for years.
That's
So,
great.
so thank y'all very much.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to working with the council members to engage with community groups in your districts like that. So
Well, this
we
is a
really-
citywide group.
Yeah, if you have other ideas, I know Councilmember Harris reached out about the Dryads YMCA, but we really would love recommendations that you have. And to your question about timing, Councilmember Moreno, we hope ambitiously else, we like to be ambitious at the health department. So I would say, this spring, it all goes according to plan with procurement of the actual locks themselves, and we should be able to be rolling, in the spring.
Thank you. This is specifically enthusiasts, collectors.
Yeah.
Mostly from the African-American community, men and women, young folk. And they've just been pushing what this mission is that you guys have for quite some time, and to now be able to partner with our health department and what you guys are trying to do. I think that's a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you all very much for your work. Councilman Thomas mentioned something that I was going to mention, was just to be on the record for the letting people know that the police department is involved and that they're having that gun safety today at 6 o'clock, at 6 o'clock today. So I encourage the public to take advantage of it. This morning, I attended a rally of 250 people very quietly that rallied in front of the Walmart from the Baptist Theological Seminary and also Bethel Colony Ministries. And they prayed for a better city. And in their prayers, they had to mention guns, of course, because there's so many gun crimes taking place. In my district alone, in shopping areas within the last 3 weeks, there have been double murders at Walmart, at Walgreens, a murder at Walmart, a murder at Dollar General. This is so important that we help people to become a little bit more sensitive relative to the power of weapons and the power of guns, but as we also encourage the public to, in their homes, talk to their children and fellow adults more about weapons and the power of weapons. I think there's a lot of groups, and I want you all to make a note of those groups: the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary and also Bethel Colony Ministries. They're on Old Gentilly Road. 250 people came out, and that murder, as unfortunate as it was, just took place on yesterday. So they can rally people in large numbers. Just want you to incorporate them into the communications and get them involved with that particular ministry. And for those who are watching from those two institutions, I want to thank them for their motivation and for gathering so many people to say that you tell us what we need and we're going to get out there in the community. But I do also appreciate the health department for your role and let me especially know we have a newsletter, whatever things that we can do through all the community groups. And I know everybody says the same thing to really get the word out about this, because it's in an epidemic, if you will, in some respects, a serious emergency in our city. But just what I've had to experience in the district in the last few weeks, just let you know that we have got to do something to turn this around. But thank you very much for your work.
Yeah, on point, Councilmember Green. I mean, this absolutely is a public health emergency, and even what was listed on the very first slide, which is just absolutely jaw-dropping. In 2022, 45 Black men ages 18 to 24 were victims of homicide, 1 in every 218, or 70 times the national rate. That's a public health emergency. That needs to be addressed with urgency. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I will go ahead and make a motion to adopt this ordinance.
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3 yeas, no nays. Thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
Share
you.
the machines. Okay. All right, so that now brings us to, we did an annual audit. Bring up Becky Hammond. Good morning, Ms. Hammond. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me here today. I am pleased to report to the committee that we have issued, first of all, that I'm Becky Hammond with Riggs and Ingram. We are your auditors engaged to do the 2021 and 2022 annual audits of the city of New Orleans. I'm pleased to report that we just recently issued the 2021 audit to the legislative auditor. It is currently under their review and scheduled to be issued in the near future to the public. It is a clean opinion on the audit opinion. There were some findings, although nothing, in fact, a decrease in one of the findings from last year. Last year, you had a material weakness in financial reporting due to a large number of journal entries that the prior auditors had to do in order to get the books where they needed to be. This year, we were able to decrease that down to a significant deficiency, mainly just due to timing, which was kind of already one of those things where the damage has already been done, and the staff is trying to catch up as quickly as they can. So I think that's a very positive move in the right direction. My expectation is next audit we won't have to have that finding at all, because we are looking in conjunction with with Norman and the staff to issue by the June 30 deadline that is the normal deadline. So we are starting some procedures next week on interim planning and things of that nature to get the audit started. And then we plan on being here in earnest beginning in April through June to get it issued on time for the 2022 audit. So I think they've made a lot of steps in the right direction in order to get this, issued and back timely where it needed to be after everything they've been through over the last 3 years. So.
Any questions? Nope. Okay, seeing no questions. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Okay, that brings us to ordinance calendar number 34020 and 34021. It's agenda item number 5. This is a $1.9 million appropriation that would go to NOLA Youth Works. It is to enhance the traditional summer jobs. You can come up, Ms. Milavasso, come on up. From roughly over 300 right now to 1,000 slots. As this council continues to look for solutions to increase public safety in our community. One of the things that has constantly been brought up to me based on data that he's seen, Jeff Asher with Datalytics has said that really having a robust youth summer jobs program is one of the things that can help to lead to a decrease in crime. And so we thought that this was really a no-brainer to expand the program to at least having 1,000 spots for additional youth opportunities during the summer. There is going to be an amendment that I will have before the full council. And in having conversations, and we can talk about this a little bit more, but in having conversations with Ms. Villavaso, also with the health department, that's, since they're working on the violence intervention model that they've had with Ms. Villavaso, and also the Office of Youth and Families, that to really scale up this program to the level of having 1,000 spots, that obviously there's going to be an additional need for staffing to help with making sure that applicants can, get everything filled out correctly, that we're really getting out in the community and saying like, hey, these spots are available. So I'm going to have a $200,000 amendment that will allow for Ms. Villavaso to now begin staffing up so that we are prepared and ready to go to fill the slots to 1,000 youth joining this program for the summer of 2023. With that, Ms. Villavaso, if you have any comments, I leave it to you, or we can take questions.
No, I just want to thank you guys for scaling up this program. And as you stated, it is definitely needed considering the issues that the city is facing today. And Varilla Morris, who's our Director of Youth Initiatives, she oversees the day-to-day operation of that program. And so we're in the process right now of not only updating our application, making it easier for parents to upload and fill out the application online, but also partnering with certain agencies to assist. One in particular, I've been having conversations with municipal court, assisting them with their truancy program and using this program for the summer as an incentive for those participants to re-engage in school. I also have a meeting with Dr. Avis of the New Orleans Public School to see what it is that we can do to assist them with the issues that they're facing. Also, another way of getting the word out for students who normally wouldn't engage in this program, helping us to expand it through our partnership. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Great to hear. Councilmember Thomas.
First of all, thank you guys. Because you're a public program, I don't think it'd be appropriate to say y'all have been one of the best kept secrets in the city, and participating with your program, and the young men and women I know who do. It has always been a hope that you guys participate in a greater way, not just with jobs and opportunities, but also with crime reduction and reducing juvenile crime. In the past, there's a history of engaging youth. One of the strategies in the late 90s was with the Chevron program, the apprenticeship and internship program, where there were a couple of years in a row, we got 1,900 and 2,000 kids involved. What happened to that program? What happened to the partnership with the business community, where it wasn't necessarily the city's treasury that took a hit, even though I think in the time now we have to, but they actually stepped up to the plate with almost 1,900 positions throughout the business community, because that's the greater economy anyway. Are we having those discussions again? Whatever happened to the Chevron or that youth initiative program, and how do we get those relationships back? And how do we get the greater economy back on the table, like Mayor Mark Morial did, because they can provide a lot more jobs and a lot more opportunity than even we can. I think sometimes people forget that the city budget is nowhere near the greater economy.
Exactly.
And the greater economy morphs our budget. And if we can get people participating at a level in the greater economy, then it actually does a greater good. Even though this is a wonderful program, how do we regain those partnerships or relationships?
So you asked a lot of questions. So the first question, the partnership with Chevron.
Excited about
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. The first question I'll answer is the partnership with Chevron. We had a partnership with Chevron, and I think they service students who lived on the West Bank. And during COVID, they kind of retracted their funding. I guess they were trying to restructure and see where they would land after COVID. I have reached out to the point person maybe 2 or 3 times to no avail, with the hope of getting them back on board and servicing those students on the West Bank. The second thing is, one of the issues we're having with the scaling up, and so that's why we're being a little bit more innovative in how we partner with these agencies. We don't have enough employers at the table to provide these students with the experience. So that would be my shameless plug to the business community, the NOLA Coalition. They have a lot of employers at the table who are very concerned about what's happening in the city. They have allocated $15 million to youth. So I'm hoping that those employers who have signed on for that initiative to open their doors to provide those experiences to our students. Also, we have a business engagement committee with the Office of Workforce Development, the New Orleans Workforce Development Board. And so that has been a conversation too. How do we get businesses to re-engage with the youth of the city? So all of those conversations are happening simultaneously, and we're hoping that they come to the table with an open mind and saying, hey, we really want to be a part of the solution.
Well, the regional chamber, I think Greater New Orleans Inc. is kind of something new from back when it was done before. The Business Council and others, they were at the table. So I think maybe there's an opportunity now to get them back to the table, because we can provide more placement
Exactly.
actually within the greater economy than we can even with these 1,000. Because if you look at the numbers from 14 to 24-year-olds, at 37%, I think, unemployed, and 36% live at or below the poverty level. You know, I think to partner with this initiative and to get the business community involved creates even more opportunity, especially for crime reduction as well as economic stabilization.
Exactly. And I have been having conversations with the New Orleans Chamber so that their clientele can open their doors to provide those experiences as well. So we have been having the conversations and doing the outreach to make sure that, you know, it's a win-win-win for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great questions. Councilmember Green?
Hello. And thank you very much for your presentation for the work. And the word exciting was used. This is exciting. 1,000 youth will be able to be put to work this summer doing productive work in our city, combining that with some of the other job opportunities, because there are some other job opportunities. I will tell you that there's a lot positive going on relative to our youth. I know that sometimes it's our job to sit here and listen to people who have negativities relative to our youth and saying that they don't have anything to do and that's why they're doing things in the community. And it's just not true. Between NORD programs, between this 1,000 jobs, between other programs, there's a lot for youth to do, organizations. I want to encourage our community-minded organizations to look at this,
Yes.
to know that this opportunity exists, and until these 1,000 jobs get filled, don't say that there's nothing for youth to do. There's 1,000 jobs this summer. Can you talk in general about how parents and community groups might access the information to help youth to apply for these jobs?
Yes, actually, we will be leaning on those community organizations because they know what those youth are who could really benefit from this program. And so we are partnering with, we're doing a partnership with Q93 and WBOK to get the word out. The application, we're going to do a blast, a text blast to inform parents who come through our center that this opportunity is available for their students, neighbors, friends, so on and so forth. But Varela could give you more in-depth conversation around how they're doing the outreach. She oversees the day-to-day. I'm just the person that's here. I lead it.
Yes, so like Sine mentioned, we definitely lean on our community partnerships and our stakeholders. It's we work off of a community-based participatory research framework where we make sure that the communities is at the forefront of our planning process and everything that we intend to do for the youth. With that being said, We also invite all of our potential partners, existing and new, to spread the word in their forms, in their ways. So this year, we intend to partner with New Orleans Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
We also have the NOYA, New Orleans Youth Alliance, and several faith-based organizations. So we want to meet the youth where they are in the different capacities where they live, learn, work, and play. So that's including with churches, whether it's their schools, and the community organizations that they work with day in and day out. So we want to spread the word those ways and those methods, as well as through media coverage and our flyer. So we plan to update our flyer. We're working with a marketing company to do that as well.
Mhm.
And so we're still open to any other media or ways to get the information and communication out there to the youth.
Yeah, it's going to be a grassroots effort, just like we do our comprehensive job fairs. We're going to have flyers on. They're going to have someone from our partnership with Bright Moments to go to the different Walmarts, putting it on people's cars, so on and so forth, to get the word out. Nothing beats a grassroots effort. So,
Good.
and everybody goes to Walmart, right?
Good, right, yes.
Well,
Well,
And that's just one of them, but I'm just saying.
is unfortunately where I was at 7 a.m., but for a whole nother reason. But the bottom line is that I appreciate the fact that you all are doing this. I appreciate, and council members Morel and Moreno, please add me to this legislation because it's so important to emphasize that there are great jobs out there, opportunities for youth. I'm not naive. I understand that there are a lot more than 1,000, but please, community groups, work and let's fill these 1,000 jobs and also look at other opportunities, including opportunities to volunteer. Look, I've raised 3 children in the city of New Orleans, very pleased with what I was able to get in terms of support from the community. A couple of times my children volunteered so that they would get some experience. My daughter volunteered in the medical field, working with doctors, shadowing them. She's now in her 2nd year of medical school. So if this job opportunity doesn't become available, there are other opportunities, but there are other ways to be productive during the summer months and just in general. And I want to encourage our community groups, especially, and those who advocate for youth to recognize that. As an aside, I want to thank Job One for the work that you all do.
Thank you.
When I refer someone to Job One and they have been formerly incarcerated that I've referred, I just want to encourage the public to recognize between this program and Job One, workforce development is getting people into jobs. And I appreciate it. And citizens, I want us to fill these jobs, these city jobs and all these jobs that you all have access to and information on. You could change our economy if we could fill the thousands of jobs that are available right now.
And to respond to that too, we are working with civil service to do a customized training, making sure that we understand what the requirements are on the civil service side. So when we actively recruit for those open vacancies with the city, we're not wasting anyone's time. So with that, if they successfully complete the training component of our program, in our partnership, they're automatically hired. So we're doing it for those laborer positions, but we're also working with the mechanics department to assist with making sure that your vehicles are maintained. So we're looking at that too. So we've been having conversations to make sure that we use our resources to support the city. So you're our employer, so.
The equipment maintenance division will hire teenagers, people right out of high school, 18, 19 years
So
old.
we're doing customized training with
Right.
them.
And
Yes.
the
Mhm.
reason I brought that up is because, as you mentioned it, yes, it's me overdoing it, emphasizing the opportunities that are out there. Community groups and citizens, please recognize that there are those opportunities. Take advantage of them. Go to the city's website and look, NOLA.gov/jobs, go to workforce development, go to Job One. And that's why these are just an opportunity to share that information. There's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yes, and according to GNO Inc.'s jobs report, 70% of the high wage, high paying jobs, or all you need is a high school diploma and a certification. So that's a low hanging fruit. And so we're trying to capitalize on that with getting people from the city of New Orleans back to work.
Thank
Yeah.
you for your job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas
No,
for follow-up.
just before we end, Councilmember Moreno, this is such a great example of partnership. You know, too often it seems it's for the public who's paying attention, you know, in terms of accountability in our different roles. I don't think people understand. So I really wanted to publicly thank you, because we partner with city agencies that work and the ones that are necessary. And this agency, given my experience, given what Councilmember Green says, you know, this council, our council members, when we see an entity that produces, when we see a group that even with the resources you had before, you know, has actually done the kind of work we need, I think that also tells the public, you know, it's not just accountability, it's not just division. There are times, and very important times, where we come together to identify solutions. And I just can't thank the council sponsors, Councilman Marino, and thank you guys enough, because I know every time I've ever spoken to a group or worked with you guys group, y'all deliver it. And this is a solution, council member.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, you know, these first two initiatives really that we talked about today, they're both solution oriented, and also, even though Councilmember Thomas, your ordinance isn't under consideration today, but also your ordinance on gun storage, same solution oriented. Ms. Villavaso, thank you so much for working with my office, for putting the pieces together on all this. I'm glad that we're getting it done, and that we also we'll do an amendment, like I told you, during the full council meeting, that'll add the additional $200,000 so that you can also start
The career
working up
coaches.
now. Yeah,
Yes.
on the coaches, so that you can get all of the spots filled. I also wanted to let you know that I did reach out to folks with the NOLA Coalition, including Michael Heck, talking about your public plea
Yes.
this morning to the NOLA Coalition, to the business owners who are part of NOLA Coalition, about helping you find opportunities for what will be 1,000 youth. And so, you know, sorry, Michael, I'm going to read your text out loud, but he says, Michael Heck says, that is fantastic. You know, how can I best connect to make this happen? Thank you. So we'll get
Thank
that
you.
connection going with you all in NOLA Coalition, and they'll hopefully get you with several different business owners that can assist you in finding all the opportunities needed for the youth.
Thank you so much. And like I said, too, when we first started this administration, we didn't want to arbitrarily just place people in internships or summer programs. We wanted to be intentional, leading to a career pathway. So we're assessing them as they come through the doors to try to get an idea of what they may be interested in, and then placing them. So that's great. Thank you.
Look, that's fantastic. You know, I know that Councilmember Green talked about this, but when I was about volunteering opportunities, when I was a kid, all I ever wanted to be was a news reporter. That's all I ever wanted to be. From when I was a little kid in elementary school, I was watching the news when all my other friends were watching other TV shows. When middle school, same thing. That's all I wanted to be. When I was in high school, I met a news anchor, and she let me come and see what she did at work. And that's all that I ever wanted to do after that. And when I was out of high school, I volunteered or interned during the summertime at different various TV stations, doing everything from bringing people coffee to whenever I could go out on stories with them. They taught me so much. I made so many connections with them. I learned much more in my internships than I did when I was in college getting my journalism major. I learned so much more like on the job experience from them on what I needed to do to be a good reporter than what I actually learned in school.
Wow.
And so I think that says a lot about the importance of providing youth with these types of opportunities. So once again, thank you for the work that you do with that. If there are, we do a public comment. Calvin or Paul?
We've got two public comments on this item. The first is a partial comment from Desha Greeley, who they are voicing their support for it. The other is from Eric Greeley, voicing support. City Council needs to follow the ordinance that they passed in May 2022 to schedule monthly updates from the city administration as to how the city has spent and is spending American Rescue Plan funds. We have not received those updates. Where is the transparency and accountability? The last comment on this item.
All right, thank you for that. And with that, I will make a motion to approve. If I can get a second, please. Nope.
Second.
The machine just cleared out. Okay, seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3 yeas, no nays. All right, we're good, Donna. 3 yeas, no nays.
That's it.
Thank you all. Appreciate
Thank you.
All right, so that brings us next to Courtney's here. Courtney, we're moving to the CAO items now. If you want to come up. Oh, actually, who's doing capital projects? You guys are doing capital project? Okay, come on, Joe. All right, so this is ordinance calendar 34025. Item number 6. It is dealing with the capital projects. It de-appropriates by roughly $16 million. Okay. And then appropriates roughly 62 million. And then I also got a whole series of amendments yesterday that maybe you can go over as well. Good to see you. Introduce yourself and your team too.
Good morning to the council. My name is Vince Smith. I'm Director of Capital Projects. And I think I'll just go down the line and let the other team.
All right. Good morning. I'm Shalita Stewart, Deputy Director of Capital Projects under Kim Delores Jr.
Good morning, Kyle Homan, the reimbursement lead for the project delivery unit.
Good morning, Ashley Harrison, PDU Database Manager.
Okay, thank you. The ordinance presented before you this morning is making several adjustments. One, it's taking care of appropriating funds that were approved and received from FEMA. I think we've got some funding from the state as well that's being appropriated. We're also making adjustments to some of our projects as we are starting to move forward with, we've talked to you guys about the issues we're having with material cost increases and how that has infected our portfolio in terms of budget. So we are beginning to move forward with looking at some of our projects and moving funds from those projects that, let's say, for instance, are in design, they've got construction money budgeted. But once again, because of the circumstance that we're in, we don't have enough money to move those projects. So we are moving funds budgeted for construction into, in particular, we've got several projects that we are advancing. The NFD multi-station renovation project, which is under construction, and we need some additional fundings to finish that project out. The Morris Jeff renovation project, which is a very high priority for District C. We're putting additional money in to advance that project. That is a FEMA and CDBG funded project. The multi-station project is a FEMA project. And the municipal and traffic court project, which is a FEMA funded project as well, that we need additional money. So we're beginning to move forward with advancing priority projects, and in particular grant funded projects. What this is going to help us with doing is not only advancing our projects, but as we are looking at and trying to figure out when we can engage the next bond sale, this helps us to move and spend bond money so that we can get to that 85% threshold that will allow us to sell the next tranche of bonds tax-free. So in a nutshell, that's what this ordinance is doing. Kyle, if you want to add anything just regarding the any of the fund transfers.
Yeah, no, a lot of this is just recent obligations by FEMA. So we have a lot of new PW versions that we're just trying to align the capital budget with recent updates.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Thomas, questions?
Well, first of all, thank you, Mrs. Smith. Thank you, team in Capital Projects. You guys work extremely hard. And I think you guys have, when you talk about capital projects, y'all have a big task in trying to straighten out and fix and kind of right some of the stuff that was done before. But let me say, in terms of economic skills and private market and what the city does, I was glad to hear you talk about how we're going to try to get to the point where we have our bond sales are back, capital projects are moving forward. Because one of the things that I know, and I think we know, is that even though the municipal budget doesn't control the free market and the private market in general, it can be a Kickstarter, or it can be a way to have scales of the economy working, where people are doing business and people are getting jobs. So I'm not a proponent, Councilmember Marino and Green, are just sitting on city money when we could have it out there working. And I think Mr. White did a great job of getting us to understand that the bond market and this whole supply chain disruption thing. But when we can take those funds that are dedicated, especially to help jumpstart stuff, fix stuff, and hire people, I think it's extremely important that we take the public's money,
Right.
put it into play, you know, and the conditions are getting better. The supply chain disruption is getting better. Products are getting better. But also one of the things I'm concerned about is the collusion within the market, especially amongst contractors. And I don't know how we would take a look at that, but I think at some point, Councilmember Green, we need to take a look at the contractors, because what I'm hearing in some of my research is that other parishes are having an easier time putting their work on the street, getting their work done, and getting people to bid and participate at better prices. Now, that's allegedly. I think we have the tools and the technology where we can take a look at that, but nobody needs those capital funds, those bond funds, and those FEMA funds at work more than we do. And I think it's extremely important that we get them out there as soon as possible.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Councilmember Green?
I'm fine.
So just some quick questions on some of the deappropriations. For the. Hang on one second. Take it to the right. Where'd it go? Here it is. So what happened with the Village Celeste playground? That the 635,000?
That project is complete. So that was money that was left in the,
Oh, perfect.
yeah,
Got
so
it.
we just, yes.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I thought that.
We got that one done
Yeah, I
already.
was like, why? So, yeah, so I was like, what happened there? Got it. Okay, perfect. All right, so any other questions? Any public comment on this? And the money? Go ahead, Paul, you got a public comment?
There's one public comment on this one. Sorry about that. One public comment from Deja Meggs. They say city council has the opportunity to bring ARPA allocations in line with community recommendations. If they do not take this opportunity to hear us, we demand a public and community driven process for determining ARPA priorities for the remaining 70 million. We have until 2024 to allocate funds. No community voice, no allocation. That's the only comment.
Thank you, Paul. All right, with that, can we get a motion to approve? It's been moved by Councilmember Green, seconded by Councilmember Thomas. All in favor? Aye. 3 yeas, no nays. Thank you
Right,
all.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spin. Thank you guys for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to agenda item number 7, ordinance calendar number 34026. Let's actually, you know what? Councilmember Morrell wanted to present that one, so I'm gonna wait on that one. But Courtney, if you want to come up for the others. Which will bring us to item number 8. This is going to be, is it finance or you all, Courtney, who are doing this one for 8?
This, Brandy will speak to that.
Okay, perfect. Ordinance calendar number 34037. This is the $9 million, $9.7 million transfer. You could give us a brief overview on this.
Yes, this particular ordinance is related to the 2022 budget for us to properly close out the year. So it accounts for any overages that we may see in departments to transfer that money to get them corrected. It's basically what this one is for.
Yeah, so it's the overage cleanup ordinance.
Correct.
Yep, got it. Any public comment on this one, Paul? Nope. All right, with that, I'll make a motion to approve. Seconded by Councilmember Thomas. One more, Eugene. Thank you. 3 yeas, no nays. So that'll bring us to to item number 9, which is ordinance calendar 34039 and 34034. And this is an ordinance appropriating an additional roughly $283 million to intergovernmental revenues and expenditures. And we had to have several briefings on this particular one. So, Courtney, I know most of the briefings that I had were with the CAO's office, so I don't know if you want to take this one. Explain to us about the importance of this particular ordinance.
Sure. Courtney Story, Chief Administrative Office. This $300 million, so this 283 and change brings us back up to 300 million. This serves as a placeholder to ease the appropriation process when new, usually non-general fund revenue comes into the city. So that could be FEMA money, HUD money, private grants. It can be any number of sources. So this $300 million just allows us to appropriate that money to departments faster, and we use it throughout the year as we receive that new revenue.
So this took me a little bit of time to get. But now I understand it. That bottom line, it's like we are guaranteed getting funding from different types of entities, mostly federal entities. Since we know we'll be getting this money in 2023, what we're doing here is putting that amount of money into Code 600, which is intergovernmental revenues. Putting it there, parking it there so that we can start spending the money now and not have to wait until, whenever we receive this particular money down the road in 2023. Is that
Almost. We won't spend the money until we have it. It just
Okay.
allows us to, when we get it, quickly appropriate it without having to either do an REC or re-advertise the budget or take some of those
Got it.
more administrative steps. It
Better.
just speeds up the process. And we do this every year. It's always in the budget. The reason why we're doing this additional ordinance this year is because when we did the 2023 budget with you all, we appropriated ARPA and fund balance projects out of that fund already. So we need to reset it in a way. So we're starting that year with a full 300 million.
Got it. All right. Any questions from the dais? Nope. No questions. Any public comment, Paul? Nope. All right. It's been moved by Councilmember Green. I've seconded. All in favor? 3 yeas, no nays. Okay, so. Talk to you about that. I'll go on to number 10. Now on to number 10, which is at 3.9 million intergovernmental revenues to the Department of Sanitation.
Norman White is coming up. Just
Okay. Hey, Norman, how you doing?
Good morning, Norman White, Chief Financial Officer. What I would like to do, Law Department should be here to explain the settlements. Maybe they don't understand the timing. So if we can come back to this item, they can give you the details of the settlement. They were supposed to be here. If you give me a moment to get them down here so they can talk about the settlement and with you all.
I mean, look, I'm pretty clear that this is a settlement money. So, I mean, if everybody else is good with that, I just wanted somebody to say it. I don't know if you all wanted to say.
I can say it's a settlement with
Yeah.
Metro.
Yeah, and I think we're all pretty well versed, unfortunately, maybe too well versed on all of the stuff that's happened all around it. So I'm good with it unless another member wants, right, okay. All right.
Right.
Been
I'd like to
moved,
move to
a
approve that
second.
to second, but I'd also like to just say I am pleased that a settlement did take place.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's a good showing that the city met with the contractor and were able to arrange things using public monies to satisfy the public, the concerns of the contractor and to have us to move forward. So thank you for that work.
Thank you.
All right, 4 yeas and no nays. So that now brings us to item number 7. It'll be handled by Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you. Essentially, ladies and gentlemen, this simply parks the $6 million we had for retention bonuses in light of the Attorney General opinion, which says we have to wait until July to allocate these. That is what it does. We have comments? Oh, all right, we have comments. All right. Ms. Zucker?
Good morning, everybody. Erica Zucker. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy with the Workplace Justice Project. I'm actually here to comment on the idea of transparency in this use of public funds generally, not specifically on this, but on the ARPA funding and on all this funding, because we talk about transparency all the time. But I want to remind the council that we're still waiting for regulations on the responsible bidder ordinance, which passed in October of 2021. Some of you weren't even on the council when that passed. That ordinance cannot go into effect without implementing regulations and the required questionnaire. And it would go a long way toward some of the issues that you're talking about today about transparency and how this money is used. This is our money, and we need to make sure that all this contracting is done in the most responsible way. Thank you.
Can I just make a response back to you, Erica? We will continue to keep pushing with you to get the rules and regs done for a responsible bidder. I was one of the authors of Responsible Bidder, and it's really astonishing at the fact that none of the rules have been created. We were just on another email string about that just this past week. So we will absolutely keep at it. And I think we have a meeting with Mr. Parker. Yeah. Okay. All right, that's a separate meeting. Never mind.
Great.
So just know that we'll continue in that fight with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Jeanette Gerardo. Let me know if I pronounced that correctly.
Yes, you did. English. It's Jeanette Hurtado, but Gerardo works.
Well, I appreciate the correction. I'm Jean Paul Morel. I don't like being called Jean Paul, so pronunciation's important.
Yes. Well, I appreciate that. Well, good morning. My name's Jeanette, and I'm with the New Orleans Workers Center for Racial Justice. I'm also a resident, that pays rent, supports the city, and supports this government. But you all passed an ordinance last year, May of 2022, requiring monthly updates, from CAO Montano, as well as the mayor, on the spending with regard to ARPA. We've been asking over and over again, we show up and we're asking for transparency. And now the money is being shifted around in general funds. And so it's even harder to track. So not only does the city have a responsibility to report that back to the federal government and how we spent that money, but we have an obligation. You have an obligation to the residents here. You can't berate the mayor for the same thing that you are allowing to happen within the city council by not accounting for these funds that belong to the residents here. That's all we're asking. We as a coalition, organizations have come forward again and again and again, and we keep asking the same thing. That is your responsibility. We voted you into office to help us recover and become something better. And the first step in that, as you know, is transparency. That's all we're asking for. And it's a responsibility that you carry. We voted you into office. We pay your salaries with our taxes. We buy groceries, whether you're documented or not. When we buy groceries, we pay sales taxes. When we pay rent, there's taxes. When we do anything in the city, we're always supporting the city. When we work, when we play, and we just ask that you take on that responsibility. We have a new city council, and we were expecting a lot from you, not the old ways, the new ways. And you have the power to do that. And that is all we're asking for. Some transparency with regard to this ARPA funding, spending it on the citizens, not just on the losses that the city has incurred when we know there are extra funds out there. So please, if the funds are going to get mixed into general funds, put it on the record. Show an accounting. That's why we have an accounting department. That's what Montano's for. That's his job. Make him do it.
Hey, Courtney, can you get us a list of all the items that ARPA money has been spent for, written out and on paper, white paper, And then we can pass it out during our next budget meeting so that you all can have it. We'll also post it online or send it out through some type of news release.
And the other thing I just wanted to ask, thank you, I appreciate that, is that when we come to these meetings, residents aren't just English speakers, but there's never an interpreter here. We at the New Orleans Workers Center for Racial Justice always bring an interpreter so that when people do come, they can understand what their government is doing. So we're asking the city council to please make sure when these public hearings, the council meetings are here, why don't we just have an interpreter available? Then it's not an issue. Yeah, and the documents as well. De nada. Thank you.
Yeah, just to respond briefly to the item that's on the agenda.
Hmm?
The money is not being shifted around to a new purpose. The money is simply being parked because it cannot be expended in the way it was intended as it went through the budget process.
And that's why we're asking.
Right, so when I presented what was happening to the money, it is not being moved to a new project. It is simply being taken out of the NOPD's budget for a brief period of time because it is not required at this time because the Attorney General has opined that there has to be a delay in which it can be allocated. So I agree with the vast majority of your comments, but when you kind of intimated we're shifting money around today to do something different, where I am telling you, and I said previously, that is not the case. The $6 million that was allocated in the budget process is going towards the same goal it was in the previous budget process. It's simply being parked because the money cannot be spent in the time period in which it was originally allocated to be spent. That being said, and I think Councilman Jeruso really hammered home with this, I share a tremendous amount of your concerns in the way ARPA money has been spent or allocated. I've said repeatedly, I am very concerned, and I have repeatedly given pushback and will continue to give pushback on relying upon ARPA money to patch the budget, because I think that is an inappropriate use of ARPA funds. I think it's inappropriate because, one, it allows there to be less transparency with general funds as you take those general funds and move them around. And two, relying upon ARPA funds, which is one-time money to stabilize a budget, is exactly what Bobby Jindal did on the Jindal years, which led to the budget imploding at the state level. So there needs to be a tremendous amount of accounting on ARPA. There is, I believe, around $80 million left of ARPA funds that has not been allocated. And the council's position, which you should continue to hold us to account for, was that no further ARPA money would be spent without a transparent process. I think also, generally speaking, there's $100 million roughly left of general fund dollars, which also needs to be spent in a transparent fashion. And what is very frustrating is that when we hear from residents that there are needs that could be met with either of those funds, there does not seem to be an urgency to take those funds to address those issues and to have a public debate on whether or not those ongoing concerns could be addressed with the money we're sitting on.
However, we and other organizations have been asking for a seat at the table. We've been asking for open meetings to do this. The meetings that the mayor held were just for providing information on what she was doing. She was not requesting information from the community on what they needed. There's been, CBNO has tried to work with the city to get public hearings, but if you don't give us a seat at the table or give the community a seat at the table, what does that mean? Yeah, why don't we just put it on the agenda and then we can talk about it?
Well, I think that's something I will have a conversation with the chair of budget. I think that's something worth adding to the agenda of just saying, why not have on the budget agenda a conversation every time we have a budget meeting about what are potential avenues in which money could be spent.
Exactly. That's all we're asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also the budget chair is watching. He's homesick, but he is watching. So he's hearing all of this as well. I think he heard you, Lexi. Okay, so that brings us to item.
I will,
what we gotta vote,
I
sorry.
will move on item 7 to park that money.
Moved and seconded by Councilmember Green. 3 yeas. No nays.
All right.
All right, so that brings us to item number 11, back to the CAO team. This is $15 million, intergovernmental revenues. This is for, I believe, this is the expenditures for the vehicles.
Yes, this is $15 million to purchase vehicles for various departments, including public safety. It is in support of the emergency motion that was passed at the last council meeting.
Got it. Any questions? Any public comment? Oh, all right. Moved by Councilmember Green. I'll second. All in favor?
I'm sorry, council member, there are some online comments.
Oh, you did? Okay, withdraw your votes, please.
I apologize. The first comment is from Lisa Merman. I believe there should be community input on the expenditure of ARP funds and a transparent process regarding how these funds are going to be dispersed. There are underpaid essential workers that could benefit from these funds, as well as numerous ways that quality of life could be improved for the people of New Orleans if this money is allocated properly. Joseph Huron Mueller. Good morning. Unity is a collaborative of 60 community organizations committed to preventing, reducing, and ending homelessness. Despite finding permanent housing for hundreds of individuals and families over the course of the pandemic, we have still seen a rise in homelessness. This homelessness is driven by a variety of factors, but central to the problem is the high cost of housing relative to the incomes of the poorest members of our community. The American Rescue Plan allocations to cities and states was meant to provide an opportunity to do something new to alleviate the worst consequences of the pandemic and put our community on solid footing moving forward. An open process that centers the needs of those most deeply affected by economic and social inequality, whose access to essential human security, housing, has been jeopardized, is critical. City Council has the opportunity to bring ARPA allocations in line with community recommendations. Please do this. Jeanette Gerardo. City Council has a duty to New Orleanians to follow the ordinance they passed in May 2022 and schedule monthly updates from the city administration requiring how the city has spent and is spending American Rescue Plan funds. The public has yet to receive any of those updates. City Council has a duty to follow the ordinance passed in May 2022, and New Orleanians are demanding accountability and transparency from the City Council and the mayor. And the last comment is from Silas Eames. With the allocation of American Rescue Plan funds, you have the power to make real lasting change in New Orleans communities that most community leaders can only dream of. Please use this money to fund lasting change that tackles the roots of violence instead of our punitive criminal legal system. If locking people up made society better, we woto live in a utopia. Please use this money to fund affordable housing and youth development programming that give people a place to be and spend and something different and something to do beyond our streets. Thank you. That's the last comment.
All right, thank you. All right, now vote your machines, please. 4 yeas, no nays. Okay, that brings us to item number 12. This is transferring $100,000 to the police department. Explain this particular ordinance. It looks like it's just for operational materials, some furniture, some tech equipment, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. All
That's
right.
correct. Yeah.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll move. Seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor? 4 yeas, no nays. All right, so that does it for you all. Thank you. Appreciate your time here. That brings us to the civil service rules and classified pay plan. Is anybody here from civil service?
Amy Trapani is on her way across the street.
All right, well, let me go ahead and take the budget reports then. Mr. White, are you doing the budget reports? You're doing the budget reports? Come on. You're here too for finance? Yeah. All right, this is item 14, the budget report.
Just wait till we get our slides up here. I'm Matthew Cooper, Chief Economist.
Brandy DeLarge, Budget Administrator.
Thank you both. We'll just wait for your slides to pop up. There they are.
Okay, I don't have a lot for you today, just to point out. This is where we were at the end of January. The big thing to note here is. This is really not, doesn't really provide a lot of useful information at this point due to the city's modified accrual process. Every bit of revenue received during the first 60 days of the year is actually eligible to be remitted or backdated to 2022. So, you know, for instance, the other taxes is likely almost all of that $11 million is probably going to be booked for 2022. So we really, it'll be the March budget committee meeting that'll take place early April before we'll be able to actually tell you much about how things are going so far in 2023. And also we'll be able to tell you then what the final number for 2022, unaudited number for 2022 is. So just really, that's all I have for you today, unless you have questions.
Any questions? Seeing none? Thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Hey, Amy. Yeah, you can go next. You're our last item. And this is item 13. Once again, the amendments to the civil service rules and classified pay plan. And remember, this is just for discussion only.
Good morning, council members. Item number 13A is motion 23-63 on holiday pay rules, Sewage and Water Board. So this civil service rule amendment comes to us as a request from Sewage and Water Board. And what this amendment does is that it allows a department to designate one of the employee holidays for the year as a flexible holiday. So first off, it does not increase the number of holidays. That's obviously set by the council. What it does is allow on a department by department basis to say, okay, so this year for New Year's Eve, will remain open. And then the employees of our department can either decide to take the holiday on New Year's Eve or use it during some other employee designated day during the rest of the course of the year. So basically gives the appointing authority the ability to remain open while also giving the employee the choice of either taking that day off or substituting the holiday for an alternate time, maybe for a religious holiday that's not on the calendar, or take care of some personal business. So again, it does not increase the number of holidays. It just provides for some more flexibility for both the appointing authority and the employees. And it's just one of the non-family holidays. Any questions?
Seeing no questions on that one, on to we don't move, it's just for discussion. And now to the pay plan rules for the fire department.
Okay, so this is a rule amendment that would change the fire pay cycle. Currently under the Fair Labor Standards Act, as you know, regular employees after 40 hours are required to earn overtime. Under the Fair Labor Standards Act, fire department employees don't have to pay them overtime until they work 212 hours in a 4-week cycle. And so an employee has to work that many hours during that time frame in order to be eligible to start to then earn overtime. If that employee takes a vacation or a sick day during that 4-week period, it counts against the number of basic hours needed to go into overtime. So what this rule does, and this is based on a negotiation between the fire union and the administration, is it takes that 4-week 212-hour period and shortens it to a 2-week 106-hour period. So fire employees would then, hourly employees would then be eligible to earn overtime after working over 106 hours in a 2-week period, instead of having to work 212 hours in a 4-week period.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none. So now to the Historic Preservation Plan Reviewer Series for HDLC and BCC.
Okay. So this is a new job series, again, called Historic Preservation Plan Reviewer. It provides for several rungs in the career series. What this does is pull out plan reviewers. Currently, they're lumped in with the plan reviewers and safety and permits, and provide for an opportunity to have different minimum qualifications. It also sets a more competitive pay range for these positions. the department was having trouble keeping people because what happens is people come into city government, they navigate the process on the city side, and then they become highly desirable in the private sector to help people navigate the process from the other side of things. So we worked with the department to try to put in more competitive salary to help them recruit and retain people in their department to perform this work.
Wow, that's really interesting. So it's like we're giving them all the experience and then they'd be like, see you later. Yeah,
Yep.
got it. Interesting. Yeah.
Just like that.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna make any more comments. So now on to the special rates of pay for health EMS. Yep, that's it.
So currently, EMS has the ability for their employees who serve as field training officers for other EMS employees to receive a 5% pay in premium for doing so. What EMS also does a lot of training for outside agencies where people from the outside will come into the EMS agency temporarily and receive that training, and they're assigned to an EMS employee to do that. So EMS wanted to also compensate their employees who take on that extra duty, but not at the level of employees who are training other employees on everything it means to work for the department EMS. So whereas those employees receive 5%, this special rate of pay would offer 2.5% to current employees who take on and train external people in EMS.
Seeing no questions, that takes us to F, which is new special rate of pay, police French Quarter supplemental.
Oh, wait,
police
did we
patrol
skip
program.
E?
Oh, did I skip E? I'm sorry. Building plan examiner.
Okay.
And this is for safety and permit.
Correct. And so safety and permits has had difficult in recruiting these positions for a number of years. And they do require some education in engineering or architecture or ICC certification. So it's pretty stiff minimum qualifications. So what this proposal does is sort of push everything down a level and then also increase the salary in order to aid in recruitment and retention of these people, these positions.
Got it. Seeing no questions and no comments, that brings us now to F, which is the French Quarter Supplemental Police Patrol Program.
So this came to us as a request due to NOPD's difficulty with filling shifts, in particular shifts like those on the weekends for the special supplemental patrols in the French Quarter, the French Quarter Supplemental Police Patrol Program. And what this premium would do is offer $100 incentive for each of the difficult to fill shifts that an officer would pick up in addition to their pay for performing that work. So it's meant to incentivize people from all over the department to take on work under that special program and pick up those extra shifts in the 8th district.
Got it. All right. No questions. And then finally, that'll bring us to the parental leave rules. And we do have public comment on those after your presentation.
Okay. So this actually came to us as a result of a council motion. We put this in and mirrored the current federal law, which is FEPLA. It's an emolument that they give to federal employees. And what this does is provide for 12 weeks of paid leave for either the person who gave birth or their partner. If they're a city employee, the employee must promise to come back to work following the period. And they also have to be eligible under regular family medical leave conditions. It's for birth, adoption, or placement of a child.
Thank you. And thank you again for working with my office. We authored this motion relatively recently, so you worked really fast on this, so I appreciate that. Paul, public comment on this?
Got 4 comments on this. The first is from Lee Abbott, representing New Orleans City Workers Organizing Committee. Dear council members, I write as a parent, a city worker, and a member of the New Orleans City Workers Organizing Committee, NOCWOC, to ask that you please vote yes to expand paid parental leave for all 4,000 plus city employees. An expanded paid family leave policy could help recruit and retain city employees in a time where we're struggling to fill positions at City Hall. Additionally, paid family leave can help with child development, reduce infant mortality, increase gender equity in the home, decrease the gender pay gap, and improve other social and health outcomes for both children and parents. Research suggests that taking annual leave can improve employee health outcomes by improving cardiovascular health, reducing stress, and improving sleep, which can lead to an increase in workplace productivity. New Orleans City Workers Organizing Committee, NOCWOC, has been very concerned with employee retention, rising cost of living, and widening social inequality in our city and country. We supported increasing the base pay to $15 for all city employees and city contractor workers, and we support expanding annual leave for city employees to 20 days. We believe that in this time, while retention problems are leaving our crucial city services understaffed, it is the obligation of our elected officials to signal their commitment to reinvest in the public sector, the sector that serves and employs the people of this city. The next comment is from Bob Morrell. I fully support more benefits for our city workers. Next is from Maria Singer. Council members, please vote yes to expand paid parental leave for city employees. An expanded paid family leave policy could help recruit new city workers in a time when the city is struggling to fill necessary positions. Paid family leave will help with child development, increase gender equity, and reduce infant mortality. The council should not stop at expanding paid family leave. The council must expand annual leave for all city workers. 2 weeks paid leave is simply inadequate. Expanding benefits for workers will strengthen our city's public agencies and improve quality of life for the hardworking people who dedicate their lives to public service. The European Union and many governments around the world require a minimum of 20 paid annual leave days, with some countries providing up to 30 days paid annual leave for both public and private employees. It is time for the city of New Orleans to be the change we wish to see and set an example for progressive southern cities. Please consider expanding annual leave for city employees in order to increase employee retention, workplace productivity, and staff morale. The last comment is from Hugo Martinez. As a parent, I found the time I was able to care for my child in infancy as vital not only to our bond as a family, but to my baby's health and well-being. As many parents can attest, being a parent is a full-time job, one that should be supported and not discouraged, as the children are our future. Let's give our children the love they deserve as early as possible. That's the last comment.
All right, thank you, Paul.
And so just to provide a little bit of data that CAO helped us get from United Healthcare, the city's health insurance provider, through quarter 3 of last year, there were 39 births on our health insurance program and 67 in 2021. So small amount compared to the amount of employees we have, but invaluable to the people that would be able to take advantage of this.
100%. Well said, Amy. Thank you. All right, that completes the presentation from civil service, and that actually completes our agenda as well. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll second. 3 yeas, no nays, and we're adjourned. Thank you.